Me.
So Karen's got them.
Yep.
Virginia's got, well, anybody who's in Hilo's got them. I got them, and Virginia's got them. So maybe we got stereo cookie frogs.
But Karen's on the Kona side.
Yeah.
Okay, Karen, they've infiltrated.
They're all over. I can barely hear you for this noise of the cookies.
Well, they're amazing hitchhikers. They're so little they can get into every little nook and cranny, and they get up in your car and you drive over to Kona, and next thing you know, there's Koki frogs in Kona. So yeah, it's crazy. I used to live up in Volcano, and they were so bad that I couldn't hear them because it's kind of like living by the airport. After a while, you don't even hear the airplanes, and they were so loud. They always said, you need to get a noise canceling microphone or something because the Koki frogs are super loud. And I'm like, what, what Koki frogs? Okay, so anyway, we may have some Koki frog background, so we're gonna work with that no matter what. So okay, Naomi, you can start us out. Or did I press the button yet? I didn't press the button. I did.
It's recording.
Oh, okay, good. Oh yeah, I look up in the corner and the giveaway is there's a thing up there that says recording. All right, so go ahead. We can start with you.
Okay. So we thought that what's really important right now is the elections, because the elections occur in December, right? So we wanted to talk about that. And the Alaka'i, your role in the club is so important because from your experience how this should be going, and you are able to help it along with the president and the president-elect getting the board together. And people do it different ways, but first of all, let me share my screen and talk about what the policies say. So for the policies, um, in the recommended constitution that Rotary International has, it says in section 2 in the constitution that there's an annual meeting in December. So all clubs should have this meeting before December 31st, and you're going to be looking at the not only the slate to elect, but also the financial report for the previous year. So really important to make sure that these gets done, even though it's not in your constitution. Maybe you have an older constitution, but you should have an annual meeting. Okay, and the cadence on the election is that you're going to have a nominating committee like in October, and then they come with the slate. Every club does it a little differently, but if you can see what the process is and see if it needs to be tweaked so that it is fair, and you do get the best qualified person in those positions. So annual meeting before December 31st, you're going to elect your officers, and you're going to have the the financial report. And this is for the year ended June 30 that they're reporting on. So the treasurer is really important to make sure the financial statements are transparent, that the club members know about it, and they're sharing that, and the transition has happened. So annual meeting, no later than December 31st, you're going to elect your officers. So when you these are the officers that take effect July 1st, right? So when you're electing the president-elect, it's the president-elect for July 1st, 6 months away. So your PE right now, your president has already been elected last year. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're electing the president-elect for 25, 26. Okay, I'm sorry, 26, 27. So your president for 25, 26 was already elected last year. They're currently the PE. Okay, kind of confusing, but we want to make sure that you please have that election and have that officer elected. And Benson will talk about a little later about continuity. So the recommended bylaw says for finances, before the start of the year, you're going to have a budget. and you're going to vote on the budget for the year. So the treasurer is going to oversee the deposits, but you want to have at least 2 officers that are approving the disbursements so that there's transparency. So you always want to see if you can have the financial statements reviewed within the club or by a CPA, and then you report it in the annual meeting in December. Okay, so the budget, ideally it's approved before July 1st, but right now is the time to do your IRS filing. So this is mandatory. Every Rotary Club needs to file with IRS a 990 form, and it is due by November 15th. So if you can please check to see if it's being done, it should be done now. Don't wait till the last day, November 15th, and be delinquent. So the way that you figure out what form to use, there is a 990N, which is a postcard, really easy. It's like an email to IRS that says we had less than 50,000 in income, and so that's it. You don't have to do any form to file. There's no penalty for late filing. That's the easiest one if you have 50,000 or less. So the thing that throws you over 50,000 is if you have a fundraiser and you're raising a lot of money and it didn't go to the foundation. But just remember that if you're having the fundraiser and you're putting that money in the foundation, you still need to do the GET of that money that was raised for fundraising. Okay, if you have more than 50,000, you're going to do a 990 EZ, and then if it's greater than 200,000, it's a full 990. So check with your CPA, your tax people, to see which one you do, but don't miss that date of filing. And then when you get it filed, we need at the grants website, the email, a copy of that filing to make sure that you qualify for grants. Okay, and then the state filing too is due. Okay, so when you elect your officers, we want you to have your secretary or someone put in the names into Club Runner. So you're going to the year 25-26, put in all of the officers in the name, in the positions that they're going to have, so that when we have training assembly in April, March and April, that we can send them an email to let them know about the training. So please, if you can help us get all of those names in by January 31st, that would be awesome. Okay, so those going to the Define Club Executives page on the Club Runner. Okay, some of the changes on the Rotary International side, there is a thing called Rotary Club Central. This is where the president-elects put in their goals. So there's been a change to the format, and they want to have a rolling 3 years so that the goals can be shared by the 3-year officers. And so if you think about who can input those goals, it's on the club level, the president, secretary, treasurer, foundation chair, membership, executive secretary. And then on the district side, it's the governor, the assistant governors, committee chairs, and the executive secretary. So these are the people who can enter goals, and the goals would be, there are 26 goals that you can pick out, but the change is that there are 6 priority goals. So when you go to Rotary Club Central, you'll see these priority goals start, and it'll say priority. So the goals that they're going to track for 3 years, it's a rolling 3 years, is club membership, the strategic plan if you have one. It's that you have one, you mark it that you have one, or action plan it's called too. Service participation, annual fund, donations, Polio Plus donations, and then benefactors. So those are the really important goals that Rotary is going to be tracking. All the other ones are good too. There are 26 that are there anyway, but they're very interested in these 6. Okay, so let's see. So that's a change that just happened this month, that they have these priorities. So it's brand new. Okay, we just had a grant management webinar. It's a qualification. So just to let you know, so that you can help your grant manager, your president-elect, So just so that you know the timeline as well, so you're a resource for the club for the 25-26 grants. So that's next year's grants. We need 2 people to attend the training. So that's the one we just had on Saturday. If you don't have 2 people, then we're gonna have another one in November, so you can make up for it. So we really need to have those 2 people to do the training, because we're going to be using a new grant module on Club Runner, and only those people who went through training are able to input an application and upload documents. Okay, so it's really important to do that training. Okay, so January 31st is when we need those 3 documents signed and uploaded to the website. So that's the MOU, the addendum, and the financial plan, and that is to be signed by the PE and the PN. So these are documents for next year, right? So it's the president next year and the president following that year. If you don't have a president, a PN, then it's going to be a current president or maybe the foundation chair or another past president. We need those documents signed by 2 people. Okay. Then we need the IRS filing confirmation. And then by May 31st, we need the final reports. Then June 15th is when the grant applications for next year need to be submitted. And then July 15th is when we're going to submit to Rotary International all of the applications that we got. And then in August, get the money out to you. So the reason why we have these dates is because some clubs need that money early in the year for school. They're buying things for the school. They have dictionaries. They need to get that money by when school starts. So if you're not ready, if your club is not ready to do an application, that's fine. But just know that you'll go in to Rotary International later, so you won't be getting your money until maybe October, November. Okay, so that's why we need the final grant reports by May 31st, so we can finish that up, get Rotary to approve that. So we report to Rotary all of the amounts that were used. We make sure that we get the final reports and the receipts. Okay, and so once we get the final report approved by Rotary International, then they'll look at our new application and they'll approve it. So every single application, we put it into a spreadsheet. Rotary takes a look at it, and they will make sure that it's according to the terms and conditions that they have set up for Rotary clubs. Okay, and so it's a lot of work to do. So that's why we have these deadlines, to make sure that we can get the money to the clubs that need it at the beginning of the school year. Okay, so
Naomi, this is Gail. Can we possibly get a copy of this PowerPoint presentation? I can't possibly write everything down that's here. It'll just be garbled. I want to take this whole thing and give it to the president and the president-elect and say, this stuff's important, guys, read it.
Right. Well, hopefully they went to the training on Saturday, and the PowerPoint that we did on Saturday, which is much longer, is on the website. So on the district website, on the front, on the left-hand side, if you scroll down, there's this thing called Quick Links. Under Quick Links, you'll find D5000 webinar recordings. And that's where we have the link to all of the recordings, and the PowerPoint is on that page. So you can always go to that website. You can view the recording and get that
Okay.
slide deck. But
Thank you.
This one will be on the that website too, with the recording. Okay, so thank you. But yeah, we want to make sure that we have this in writing, so you can take a look at that and remember what the dates are. And we always kind of remind people, whoever it applies to, that there's a deadline coming up. Okay, so the key takeaways for the president-elects, because this training was for next year, yeah, they need to make sure that the purpose of the application is how the money was used, because that's what Rotary approves. So if there's a change to how you're going to use the money, you need to do a revised application and get it approved again by Rotary. You don't spend the project funds until you got the grant funds in your account. And that's Rotary's role, that they want to follow this thing for charities, that if you use the money, if you spent money before you got your money, you really didn't need that grant. And so they're kind of following that role. need to use all of the funds by May 31st. If you don't use it, we need to get it back to Rotary Internet, to the district, so we can repurpose it to another club who can use it. Disbursements, again, need 2 people to authorize the voucher or the check, but there is a voucher form that you need to use. It's required to use that voucher form. And we showed that voucher form on the webinar last Saturday, and we're also sending it out to your president-elects so that they can have that in their files. Okay, grant funds cannot be carried over to the next year, and the qualification checklist needs to be done by January 31st. So kind of those are the takeaways from that that training that we had. Every club should have a folder that has 5 years worth of the historic documents. All of the documents that you signed, the application, grant application, the receipts, the bank statements, all should be kept for 5 years. Okay, so just wanted to let you know that that's the training that we had. So if you can help your club members, whoever's responsible for it, if they have questions, help them with this process. Okay, that's it.
And one of the reasons why that's super important, what we're finding out in terms of getting communication out to the clubs, almost all of the communication that goes to clubs goes through the club president, and a lot of times it never goes any further beyond that, or the club president doesn't get it, or doesn't get it out to the rest of the club. So what we're going to try to do at some point, I'm hoping by the end of this year, is try to develop like a communication group in each club, and which would include the president-elect. Obviously, the club trainer would be involved in there, maybe the membership chair, the community service chair, so that when information goes out, it goes to more than one person. Because one of the issues that we have is that you know, a lot of the information, it doesn't filter down to the actual members of the club. And we're sometimes, when we go in and do training, or we go into actual clubs, I'm amazed at some of the stuff they don't know, because we're just assuming that if we tell the president that it's automatically going to go down to the rest of the group in it, and a lot of times it doesn't. So, okay, so I'm gonna flip over now and talk a little bit about developing a leadership line in your club, because one of the things that everybody out there is kind of challenged with is how do we get leaders in our club? And so what we're seeing is that a lot of clubs are really challenged by it, and so what's happening now is a lot of clubs just have their president. We have some clubs that are going on their 3rd year now as club president, because nobody wants to step up and really take the responsibility of being a leader in their club. And it's a pretty simple equation, right? So if Rotary is really these 46,000 clubs that are out there, if a club doesn't have a leader, it basically goes away, right? So we had to close a few clubs last year in our district simply because we didn't have leadership, or we didn't have people that wanted to keep it going. So developing a leadership line in everybody's club is really, really important aspect. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. All right, let's see if this will work. Okay, here we go. So to create, one of the things we're trying to do is create a leadership development program, and we have actually right now 3 existing programs in our district to help create leadership in our district. And so one of the great things about Rotary is that it offers leadership training, and in a lot of places where, you know, people don't have an opportunity to be exposed to that. Okay, so one of the strategies is to really sort of develop a leadership ladder, where somebody starts out as basically maybe a committee chair, like a new member. And one of the best things that you can do is engage people at as soon as they come in as a new member to take some type of leadership role, and it can be a committee chair or chair of some kind of event. That would maybe be the next step, where they're going to be a project leader that will help them to develop certain kinds of skills. Maybe the next thing is, like, a lot of clubs don't really have a vice president, but they could take some other leadership, like a board member, you know, somebody that could be the treasurer, the secretary, and then ultimately become the president someday, okay, or the club president someday. One of the things that that some clubs are doing now is they're kind of taking a team approach to leadership, where they're doing a co-presidency, where, you know, they have two people that'll do it. And one of the things that you can do is you can team up somebody who's already been president, or more experienced president, with somebody that is newer, that maybe hasn't had that experience. Some of the benefits of that, and it kind of reduces the burden on people, because what I see in a lot of clubs, and one of the reasons why people are not really anxious to be club presidents, is that the club doesn't or hasn't set up infrastructure within the club to help support the president, right? So I think one of the fears that people have about being club president is that they'll have to do it all themselves, right? And if and nobody wants to be in a leadership position where they have to do it all themselves. One of the other things that we can do is actually recognize and celebrate club leaders. So, you know, people, as you know, in Rotary and everywhere, they like to get recognition. So when we can give awards or have recognition to our leadership, people really like that. A club president can also be a very visible person in the community. You know, that's a position that people would like to have, or wouldn't mind having a leadership position that gives them some position in leadership in the community. So recognizing our leaders and the accomplishments and the things that do really important. You know, one of the I think probably the top excuse that people give why they can't be club president is that they don't have the time, right? They say, well, you know, I don't have the time to be club president. So like in our club, if we ask somebody to be president or nominate somebody to be president, one of the things we try to do is take a look at what time they do have available, and then sort of, you know, build a support structure around that. So if people feel like they're supported, maybe the terms are shorter, maybe they have a staggered structure where they can go back and forth with somebody else, like a more team approach. Or like the president-elect, after they get some training, they can start coming on the scene and helping to support the president. And then, of course, it allows like leaders over time to gradually assume the office or their leadership position. We tell people after they've come through PET's president-elect training, that excuse me, trying to sneeze here. That the last 3 months of the year, April, May, and June, is that good transition period where it's time for the new president or president-elect to start taking on some of the responsibilities that the club has in meetings, for example, or in board meetings, so that by the time they take over in June, they have a pretty good idea of, or pretty comfortable being in front of the club and having that leadership position inside the club. One of the things that we can do is really highlight leadership benefits, simply because you know, like we have some younger members in our club, and they immediately signed up for our leadership training within the club, within our district. And the reason that they did that is that in their current positions in their work, they don't have any leadership opportunity. They don't have any access to leadership training. So the fact that within Rotary, they have that access and they can develop skills. And as they develop skills and they get these leadership positions, it helps them in their networking and certainly in their personal growth. Oh. And so some of the strategies that we can implement out there with the leadership program, why it's important, is it can help really build confidence in the individual that wants to do that. If we can show them that there's a clear progression for somebody who wants to ascend to a place of leadership, that there's infrastructure and shared responsibility within your club to help people become the leader, that there's recognition involved in it, and that's appealing to some people, and that there's flexibility. If your club has the ability to kind of rally around whoever the president-elect is, then it gives them some flexibility in terms of, you know, making that commitment. And I would say that the primary excuses, or a lot of the things that we get when we're approaching people to get into leadership, is that they don't have the time. That's the number one, that they don't feel comfortable, that they have enough training. But I tell you, once you identify yourself as somebody who wants to have leadership, Rotary has an amazing leadership program. And even if you want to ascend to higher levels, like I just came through the first section of my in-person training for district governor. And I tell you, after a week of that, I thought, wow, if I was in the corporate world, I probably would have my company would have to pay $25,000 or $30,000 for that week of training. I mean, I thought the training was that good. So lots of opportunity out there, especially for younger people, or especially even for people that are newly retired, that it may be in their work, they've never had an opportunity to have a leadership position. When they come into Rotary, now there's that opportunity to do that. You know, if you've had a role in your work where, you know, maybe you just worked on your own, you never really around people that much, but you always aspired and wanted to have some kind of leadership role. Now you have the opportunity to do that in Rotary. So that's a little bit about Rotary leadership development within the clubs, that you folks can play a really important role in helping to develop that. Okay, Naomi. I think you were gonna talk about Club Central, but you might have already covered it.
Yeah,
Huh?
sorry, I went straight
Yeah.
through, didn't I?
Okay, all right, no problem. All right.
I wanted to see, because some of these clubs don't have a PE, or you might need some help with trying to build up that bench of future leaders. So can we talk a little bit more about that? So how we can do that, help the clubs build up that bench?
What are, Virginia and Gail, you folks have been in Rotary a while. What have you seen that's been successful out there in terms of helping to build leadership within the clubs? Go ahead, Virginia. You're unmuted, so that means you're going to talk.
Yeah. Well, I guess, Hawaii, I'm still adjusting to Hawaii and also to our post COVID situation in previous clubs. We had annual face-to-face events that were kind of kickoffs for the Rotary year, in terms of a spring training that was for incoming officers. And one of the things that I'm trying to get my club to do is to have an annual retreat, officer retreat, that's like a half a day get together for officers to actually sit down and do that planning. Because in our club, Hilo Bay, there are no real opportunities for extended time to have a meeting. All the meetings are like an hour, including the board meetings. And so a board meeting really only allows you to do board business month to month and doesn't give you those training opportunities. So I honestly think clubs need to either do retreats or have get-togethers where they can build that leadership just by working together. It also helps with getting that strategic plan done. I don't know what other clubs do though.
Do you have assemblies, club assemblies?
Sometimes. We haven't had any this year, but the club assemblies are not those kinds of opportunities. Generally, the assemblies that I participated in here are getting things done kinds of things, and they don't involve in participation among the membership as much as hearing reports, that kind of thing.
Okay, so this is something that maybe you can propose to the club, that you do with the assemblies. It's a chance where the membership can discuss issues or plans, but the one at the end of the year, like in April, May, June, is when the incoming board will get together and talk about plans for the upcoming year. So there are some clubs that do a separate retreat. And so the retreat is for the officers to get together and gel, but also to plan for the following year. So maybe that's something that you can start in your club.
Yeah, I think doing it at the assembly level would be a good idea. Like I said, I'm still enough of a newcomer that suggestions tend to be greeted sometimes with, well, this is the way we do it here.
Okay.
But I'll try.
Encourage your officers to go to our training, because we do talk about that at our training.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not coming from you. You can say Benson said.
Okay.
Well, we are planning in the spring to do basically a sectional type of training, right? Where we're going to be kind of broadcasting the training, and clubs in certain areas, like all the East Hawaii clubs, can get together and get it basically over a meeting, over the Zoom meeting, but then participate in person. And I think you're right. I think an in-person meeting has really a lot of impact. And we used to do that, in East Hawaii. We had a meeting of all of the East Hawaii clubs every, I think it was springtime, yeah, where our our leadership would come over from Honolulu and we'd have like a half a day thing over in Hilo, and that was really effective in helping to develop. And every club would send like a dozen people, and it was a pretty cool thing.
But
So
so-
I'm sorry, I just want to mention one other thing. In both in Alaska and Arizona, where I attend district conferences, the district conferences had sessions for club officers, like job-alike sessions. And I know about the distances and not everybody goes, but generally the leadership in the clubs are kind of expected to go to the district conference and are supported by their clubs to go to the conference. So having things specifically for those officers, particularly the ones that are incoming when we have a May conference, May or June conference, I think would be really helpful to hear what other people are doing on other islands and in other clubs.
Yep, you're right.
Yeah. Gail, what's your thought?
Well, I remember those gatherings on different islands because one time I went to one that was on Hawaii Island, and I'm a member of Waikiki Rotary, and people were really surprised that I came over to Hawaii Island for the training, but Carolyn and I wanted to spend the weekend together, and that was a good way to do it. And it was a lot of fun. I remember Roz Cooper walked in and she looked at me and said, "Wait a minute, you live on Oahu?" I went, "Yeah, but Carolyn lives here." And we had a very good time doing that. I don't know how we could go back to doing that with COVID. COVID is real and it's scary. And my granddaughter in California spent the other night in the emergency room because she got COVID and it caused a bad asthma flare. And I have bad asthma and I've been in the emergency room far too many times. So I don't know that I'd be willing to go into big group meetings. I like Zoom because I'm safe in my house. When I get COVID, I got really, really sick. When I got RSV, I got really, really sick. That's changed the educational structure. And whether we like it or not, it's changed. On the other hand, Zoom gives you the ability to have people from all over the world together in a music kind of capilla, which my music teacher does every 3 months. It gives Rotarians a chance to be together with people from the different islands, all by Zoom, and nobody's afraid they're going to get sick because we're not in the same room as each other. So although I have fond memories of what used to be, COVID's changed everything. I haven't performed live in person since March of 2020. I mean, it's just changed everything. And I think people should be very cautious about wanting to go back to what was, because people can die from COVID. And it's scary and it's not over. I mean, I've had all my shots, so I feel pretty good. But am I going to go to a district conference? Nuh-uh. I don't want to be around that many people. Too scary for me. But then I'm 77. Maybe the younger Rotarians are in a different phase of their medical abilities or disabilities. So I don't really have a good answer to that. What we used to do was fabulous. We would have lots of people from each club, and the clubs would pay for like up to 10 people to go to the training. Food was supplied. You'd get ideas from each other. How can we structure that kind of thing via Zoom? And that's harder to do.
Yeah.
That's harder to do. I have not been to a district conference in many years, certainly not since COVID hit. And I can tell you, I'd like to go to the one on Oahu. Will I? Nope. I'd like to go to Aloha Music Camp this year because it's the camps last year and it's in Kona. Will I go? Nope. Because if I get COVID, I end up in ER. When I got RSV, I ended up in ER. I'm not going to take a chance to do that again. Now, our club is unique, I think, because we've got a lot of young people who are new members, and we have the new people immediately take on leadership positions. You join the club, you are expected to be part of the leadership team. So some of our brand new members are community service chairs. Some of our brand new members are co-chairing things with other people. And if you get people, Iman said this years ago, if you get the new people involved immediately, they'll be valued, they will feel valued, they will stay in Rotary. And so the club I belong to just celebrated 85 years. We got a bunch of really old people. I mean, Roy King, God bless him, in his 90s. But we also have a whole lot of very young people who are employed, who have families, who aren't terrified of COVID like I am. And what we've gone to is kind of a mentor thing. You say that you will be a chairperson of the Youth Service Committee. Well, those of us who have done that before will mentor you and help you and bring you along. And that seems to work really well. And then nobody has to feel that, you know, they're going to maybe get sick.
No, I think that's a great idea. And I think the answer is that, you know, there has to be something out there that'll work for each individual based on their situation. So this works for you. So that's why you're always here, you know, and that's really great. I like your club's experience or your club's expectation that new members are gonna, your expectation is that they're gonna be engaged in some type of a position immediately. And
Oh, absolutely. Even before they join, they come to a meeting, we talk to them about, hey, there's this service project coming up. Here's what it's about. Please come and work with us. You'll see what this is about. And you hook them right at the beginning. And Iman said that years ago, and it's still true and it still works.
Yeah.
But
So-
again, we're dealing with maybe 30 people at a time that are coming to a Rotary Club. And how many people out of that 30 go to paint the YMCA? Well, maybe 5 or 10. How many people will go to do another activity that doesn't involve painting, like collecting food for the food pantries? So you always get a small subset out of the 30 that will bring the food, and then someone else will take the responsibility to deliver it. And that's how you get people involved, because if they're involved, they feel like they're in Rotary.
Yeah. So what about, you know, some of you guys that don't have your camera on, Karen, Cindy, Mike, Jason, what's your thought about developing leaders in your club? What's some of the things that have worked or haven't worked, or like in Gail's case in their club, the club just expects them to be, you know, take a leadership role in something as soon as they get to be part of the club. Karen, what are you guys thinking out there in Kona?
Well, my club is struggling with this very question.
Yes, I know.
We're down to about 10 members, and nobody wants to take on leadership roles anymore. So we're doing things like co-presidenting. I'm doing that this year, and next year I'm hoping that he'll reciprocate and do co-president with me. I haven't seen any things that always work so far. As I said, we're struggling with it.
Yeah, I don't think there's one answer, one universal answer to everybody. You have to sort of take a look at what your situation is, what you're dealing with, and then really it's kind of up to the club. Hey guys, if we want to do this, we want to continue to do Rotary, somebody's got to be the leader. And I think in our club, what happened post-COVID, because our club almost went away. I mean, COVID almost wiped our whole club out. But what happened for us is that we just talked about what kind of support does the president need, and then once we all agreed, okay, we're willing to support that, then we had people that were willing to kind of step up and serve that role. But you know, that's our club and the individuals that are in our club. Maybe it won't work for everybody else. You know, Cindy, if you can unmute and give us your thought about that. I know that, you know, you've got a pretty experienced club out there, lots of people out there that, you know, are participating in things. What's your thought about it?
Thanks, Vincent. As you know, our club is still relatively new, and encouraging people to take leadership roles has been kind of my thing, to try to always have a PE and a PN. And we've been really fortunate in that regard. Nobody has had to do Hanaho years as president so far. James is doing Hanaho year this year, but it wasn't 2 years in a row. He wanted to do the role again this year because the year he was president was COVID. So he wanted the opportunity to do presidency without the restrictions of COVID. So, and we have a PE and a PN. And now I'm trying to think of who we can add to that lineup, because, you know, next year we'll have just a PE. So now we need to line up somebody else. And I've been trying to think of how we can encourage people to take on more responsibility, and step up to be leaders in terms of chairing a committee or chairing a project. And I think that's something we discussed a little bit at our last board meeting, is to try to come up with a plan. And I think maybe that leadership laddering diagram that you showed might be something that we should explore more. But we've always been a small club, so every member has been on the board basically. But now we have 20, 21 or 22 members, and so now we actually have a board. So this is the first year that we've had a board, and I think we've had 3 or 4 meetings now. So so it's kind of a learning experience, and hopefully we can come up with sort of a plan for ourselves. We need to do strategic planning. We need to update our bylaws and get kind of those housekeeping things done so that we have a better and stronger framework to operate within, I think. But we're really fortunate that we have 2 strong people who are going to take on, who's our PE this year and our PN for next year.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things that Waikiki Rotary has been doing for a really long time is co-chairs. So we have 2 people who are co-chairs for community service. We have 2 people who are co-chairs for Rotary Foundation, etc. We even have 2 people who are co-chairs for Club Trainer. Because I'm never going to make the meetings on Saturday, but I can always make the meetings on a Monday night. Carol Riley could always make the meeting Saturday, but maybe not Monday night. And so as long as you got people to cover, if somebody gets sick or there's a death in the family, there's still somebody there. And 2 people have 2 minds, and 2 minds collaborate together. And then you have both people in that chairing position. And that works out really, really well for us. And it's not quite as threatening. Now, we don't have co-presidents, but as long as I've been in that club, we have never had a problem of the election committee getting together and saying, okay, here's who we think should become president, because look what they did for the club for community service. Look what they did with the club for youth service, etc. So they've climbed that staircase that Benson's talking about without us consciously thinking they're climbing a staircase. And yeah, they're a really likely person. And our club is the kind of club that we will support the president. We will help as much as we can, when we can, and where we can. And we're not a super big club. We've got like 50 members, and at best we have about 30 that come to each club meeting. But this idea of co-chairing really seems to work well for Waikiki Rotary.
Okay, that's a great plan. So I'm gonna turn it over the last few minutes to Naomi, because she has a couple of calendar items to go over. So go ahead, Naomi.
Well, first of all, Gail, who is your president after Chad?
I don't know who the president is after Chad because I'm not on the election committee.
Okay.
Ava is the president now. Chad is the president-elect. I do not know who the president-elect nominee is because I haven't been involved in that part of the club this year.
Okay. And Cindy, do you have someone that follows Kimberly?
Yes, Kimberly will be our president next year. And I'd like to introduce you to Jason Martin, who is on the call. He's our treasurer this year and our PN. So he
Oh,
will
awesome.
follow Kimberly.
Congratulations. And good, you're getting good training as a treasurer, Jason, right? So Cindy, good that you made him treasurer.
Great.
Mhm.
So calendar items, we've got well, the elections coming up. For the president-elects, we're going to have our president-elect training in February, but we have a pre-PETS training in January. And so this is where they're going to find out about the calendar for the following year, make some plans with the district chairs on foundation membership, public image. But in March, we will have a session, it's a workshop on action plan. And so Benson is the action plan champion for the district. What we wanted to do was to have someone named in each club as the action plan champion. And the most likely person who can do that are you folks. So if we get this cleared with, if Benson can convince Nancy, that's what we're going to do. We're maybe going to give you another hat. So as your club trainer, Alaka'i, but also the action plan champion, we'll let the PEs know that you are going to help with that action plan. So in March, we're going to go over the components of an action plan. So Benson's going to cover that. And then we want the club, each club to come up with their own plan. And so it would be really good if you folks would be the driver of that effort and make sure that the action plan is followed from then on. And hopefully it's a 3-year plan so it can keep on going for continuity. And then in April, we have the training assemblies, and this is where all of the incoming officers get their training. So please, you encourage your incoming treasurer, your secretary, your chairs to go to that so they can get the training and be ready to go July 1st. And so we'll have the whole calendar for next year ready to go by pets.
Is this training all on Zoom?
Yep. Well,
Okay.
the workshop is on Zoom, but what we're thinking of is encouraging every area to get together in person. So you watch the general information and then you get together after the Zoom to start to plan together. So say your 5 Waikiki clubs watch the first hour of the Zoom on how to do an action plan, and then the second 2 hours you actually work it together with your incoming board. So we're that's an idea that we're working on now.
Okay, Naomi, I may have misheard the dates there. You said this training is going to be in March.
So the training for the action plan is going to be March 29th on Saturday. And then the district training assemblies are going to be April 5th and April 12th on Saturdays. And those are going to be on Zooms. So those Zoom sessions are for all of the chairs, the officers to get their training.
So you said something about having plans done by pets and time for pets?
Well, we want to let we're going to have the calendar ready by pets, and hopefully they can start working on their goals for Rotary Club Central. But we want to see if an action plan champion for each club can be named. And so we're going to unveil that idea with the president-elects so that they know what your position is and how important it is to the club's success. So we'll unveil that at PETS.
Okay, got it.
Remind me again what an action plan is.
Benson?
What do you mean when you're talking
Yeah.
about an action
Yeah,
plan?
it's just it's the new name for strategic plan. You know,
Okay, now I know
before
what you're talking
we used to
about.
do strategic plans, so now they're trying to simplify it, and we're not using the term strategic plan anymore. It's really about action plan, and you know they have simplified the process of it now, so it's easier to to put it together. That's essentially what it is.
Is there some kind of framework for clubs
Yeah.
to follow? Because it's been
Yes.
changed now.
Yes, there's a template for it, and it's a lot more simple.
Okay.
Than the old strategic plan. So. Okay, any last word? We've reached the end of the hour, and time flies by when you're having fun. So
Yeah, we didn't
any
hear from
last
Mike.
thoughts?
We didn't hear from Mike and Kauai.
Oh, Mike. Mike, any thoughts, Mike? Mike from Kauai? Are you a club president, Mike, or a officer or club trainer?
I think he's a PE, right, Mike Johnson?
Yeah, Mike might be a PE. Okay, well, Mike might be on a break already. Okay, any other thoughts or ideas before we call it a night? We appreciate you guys coming in. I'll get you a little more advanced notice the next time we get together. But we're kind of rolling into the holidays now, so everybody will be super busy. Usually, we kind of take the month of December off because there's just too much going on. But there is quite a bit coming up here in the next month or so.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts, Naomi?
Next meeting is for the Alaka'i is January 6th.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna be out for the holidays, and we'll see you guys January 6th. Okay, appreciate everybody coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the thumbs up, Jason. We'll see you guys later. Take care.